Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Sharadam Chandramolisham Ratnagarbha Ganeshwaram Shankaracharya Sringesham Tungam Lokagurun Bhaje Shastrabdhi Paradrishvanam Sangahinam Taponidhim Bhaje Shri Bharati Tirthagurum Bhadraughadayakam Vidhuvad Jagadananda Sandhayi Gurushekharah Manase Sannidhattam Me Vidhushekhara Bharati वागीशा यस्य वदने लक्ष्मीर्यस्य च वक्षसि यस्यास्ते हृदये संवित् तं नृसिंहमहं भजे माधवो माधवावीशौ सर्वसिद्धिविधायिनौ वन्दे परस्परात्मानौ परस्परनुतिप्रियौ कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमोऽस्तुते. Offering my Sashtanga Pranamas to the Pada Padmas of the Ubhay Jagadgurus. As per the directive of Jagadguru Shri Sannidhanam Varu, this auspicious time of the Chaturmasya Vrata will be used for us to conduct Vichara inquiry into various texts of Sanatana Dharma that have special philosophical significance. Amongst these is the Srimad Bhagavata Mahapurana. As we know, keeping the meanings of the Vedas in mind, keeping the purport of the Upanishads in mind, Vedavyasa Maharshi has composed 18 Mahapuranas and 18 Upapuranas, all of which are meant to echo the teachings of the Vedas. That is why it is said, Itihasa Puranabhyam Vedam Samupabrimhayet. The Itihasas and Puranas are meant to echo the teachings of the Vedas. We can see this very clearly in the Srimad Bhagavata Mahapurana. It is not necessary that we get into unnecessary discussions about whether the Srimad Bhagavata Mahapurana is indeed the Bhagavata Purana amongst the 18 Puranas. There are mainly two schools of thought. Some which say that the Devi Bhagavata is the Bhagavata Purana. There are some others which say that the Srimad Bhagavata, the Krishna Bhagavata, is the Bhagavata Purana. Both of these statements have equal merit to them, and it is not to us to decide which is more proper, as both discuss the same tattva, both discuss the same glory of Paramatma in the respective texts. We see in other Puranas, such as the Matsya Purana, that when the Bhagavata is defined, यत्राधिकृत्य गायत्रीं वर्ण्यते धर्मविस्तरः वृत्रासुरवधोपेतं तद्भागवतमिष्यते. Wherever dharma is discussed extensively, commencing with the Gayatri, and also includes the narrative of how Indra killed Vritrasura, that text is called Bhagavata. This definition applies equally to the Devi Bhagavata as well as the Krishna Bhagavata. Yatradhikritya Gayatrim. The Krishna Bhagavata starts with Satyam Param Dhimahi. This Srimad Bhagavat Mahapurana starts with Satyam Param Dhimahi. So that Dhimahi word is indicative of the Gayatri mantra and its meaning. In the same way, the Devi Bhagavata also starts with Sarva Chaitanya Rupam Tam Adyam Vidyancha Dhimahi Buddhyam Yanaf Prachodayat. So there too we see that the commencing of the text has shades of the Gayatri mantra within it. In the same way, Varnyate Dharma Vistaraha. In both Puranas, in the Srimad Bhagavata and the Devi Bhagavata, we see that various dharmas, including the nature of bhakti, are discussed at length. Obviously, bhakti is discussed more extensively in the Srimad Bhagavata Mahapurana. Vritrasura Vadhopetam. The narrative of how Vritrasura was slain is found in both of these Puranas. Indeed, this term Vritrasura Vadhopetam is found in Devi Bhagavata when it talks about itself as well. So it is not to us to unnecessarily quarrel and quibble about which Purana is authentic and which Purana is not. We can take it that Vyasa Maharshi, being the greatest well-wisher of mankind, has propounded the same tattva in two different ways in two Puranas, and both are worthy of the utmost respect and great Shraddha while undertaking their study. So we see here that in the Srimad Bhagavata Mahapurana, Vyasa Maharshi has embedded nothing less than the purport of all the Vedantas. When we look at a text to determine where its purport lies, there are 6 guidelines that the Mimamsa Shastra gives us: the commencing of the text, the closing of the text, whatever has been repeated in the text, whatever has been shown to be very new, whatever has been shown to have a very great fruit, whatever has been praised in various ways, and whatever has been logically substantiated. If a matter has all of these 6 facets found in a text, it follows that that matter is indeed the highest purport of that text. So, although to discuss all of this with regards to Srimad Bhagavata would take a very long time, we shall simply look at the commencing and the closing of the Srimad Bhagavata, wherein we can see clearly that Vyasa Maharshi has propounded nothing other than the Advaita Siddhanta, which is known throughout all the Upanishads in the Srimad Bhagavata Mahapurana. As we know, the first verse of the Bhagavata Purana is Janmadyasya yatonvayaditaratashchartheshu abhijñasvarat tene brahma hridaya adikavaye muhyanti yat surayah tejo vari mridam yatha vinimayo yatra trisargo mrisha dhamna svena sada nirasta kuhakam satyam param dhimahi. We see here that the summation of the Vedanta, the summation of the Brahma Sutras has been neatly given in one shloka. As Bhagavan also says in the Gita, Brahma Sutra padaishchaiva hetumadbhir vinishchitaihi. This tattva of Paramatma has been discussed not only in the Vedas and the Upanishads, but also has been shown through hetus, through logical reasoning in the Brahma Sutras as well. Which is why this Bhagavata Mahapurana starts with a Brahma Sutra, the second Brahma Sutra, Janmadyasya yataha. Following the Sutra, Athato Brahma Jignasa. The second Sutra is Janmadyasya yataha. That same Sutra has been embedded in the as the first words of the first shloka of this Bhagavata Mahapurana, Janmadyasya yataha. Janmadi. The Janma, that is to say, the creation, sustenance and dissolution of this jagat, asya, of this jagat that we see. That is why the word asya has been used instead of tasya. Tasya means of that, asya means of this. The word this is used because the jagat is what we are more acquainted with. We do not see Paramatma as clearly as we see this jagat, which is why asya, of this jagat, janmadi, the srishti sthiti layas happen yataha, due to which entity. So the first quality that is used to teach Brahman is called the tatastha lakshana. That is to say, Brahman as defined from the standpoint of the Jagat. We cannot immediately set our mind on the pure Satchidananda, pure consciousness, pure existence, pure bliss. This is a very abstract quality. So rather than teach us that first, the Purana teaches us that let us first define Brahman from the standpoint of the Jagat. So this Jagat has come into being, it is sustained, and it eventually dissolves back into its cause. That cause is none other than Paramatma. And how is it that we know this? Anvayaditarataschartheshu, in all arthas, that is to say in all objects, through Anvaya and Anvayata itarataha. This is what we call in Shastra as Anvaya Vyatireka. That which is there and that which is not there. There is an aspect of Brahman that exists in all objects. There is an aspect of Brahman that is not there in objects that do not exist. What do we mean by this? In every object that exists, we see that there is an aspect of Sat. This object is, the chair is, the pot is, the cloth is, the tree is. So there is this aspect of is, asti, existence that is present in each and every object in this cosmos. That is Anvaya. There is also the reverse, wherein there are some objects that no one ever sees. That is to say, for example, a flower that has blossomed in the sky. That is what we call Akasha Pushpa. The horn of a hare, of a rabbit, Shasha Vishana. These objects never exist. They do not exist in the past, present or the future. Here, the aspect of is does not exist. The horn of a rabbit is. There is this quality is not there anywhere. And a flower that blossoms in the sky exists. No one says this as well. So the quality of existence is found in all objects in this cosmos. The quality of existence is not found in objects that are not there in this cosmos. Therefore, it follows that whatever is present in each object is indeed the cause of all those objects. Just as gold is present in an earring, gold is present in a necklace, gold is present in a ring. Therefore, it follows that gold alone is the cause of a ring, of a necklace, of an earring. In the same way, because this aspect of Sat, this existence, is found in each and every object in this cosmos, it then follows that Sat Padartha is the cause for this cosmos. Indeed, that is what the Chandogya tells us. Sadeva Somya Idamagra Asid Ekameva Dvitiyam. O my child, O Shvetaketu, only the Sat Padartha, that is to say Brahman, Paramatma existed. Ekam Eva Advitiyam, one alone without a second. And it is that object later on that decides to create the Jagat. So here, the sequence of this shloka very nicely sets aside anything else that we might think would be the cause of the Jagat and singles out the Paramatma alone. So here, just as in the Brahma Sutras, we may get the doubt, why is it that we have to say that Paramatma is the cause of the Jagat? Can we not say that Prakriti is the cause of the Jagat? Because indeed all of this is Prakriti alone. So Bhagavan also says in Gita that Jiva Bhutam Mahabaho Yayedam Dharyate Jagat. This is my Bhinna Prakriti Rashtadha. Aparayamitasthanyam Prakritim Vidhime Param. Jiva Bhutam Mahabaho Yayedam Dharyate Jagat. The Moola Prakriti, that is to say Bhagavan's primordial Shakti, is what sustains this Jagat. So this is told in Gita also. So why is it that Prakriti is not taken to be the main cause of the Srishti Sthitilayas of this Jagat? Immediately the Purana tells us, Artheshu Abhijnaha. It is because this Paramatma is a conscious entity. Prakriti is not conscious, rather it is inert, it is Jada. For Srishti to take place, for creation to take place, it is necessary that there be a sentient entity that goes about creation, because creation requires a will. The will to create can only be found in a sentient entity. That is why indeed in the Brahma Sutras also, right after the Chatussutri, the first sutra we have is Ikshaterna Shabdam. It is not Prakriti that is discussed as the cause of the Jagat. Why Ikshatehe? Because when Paramatma decided to create, the Upanishad says Tadaikshata. Ikshana here refers to having a sankalpa, to will something. Because it is said that Satpadartha willed the Jagat to come into existence, and because this will is not possible, it is not possible for an inert object to will something, for an insentient object to will something, it then follows that the insentient Prakriti cannot have had a will through which the Jagat has come into being. Therefore, this Paramatma is Abhijnaha. He is the conscious entity from which this Jagat has come into being. Then we may get the doubt, the Jiva is also sentient. So why do we say then that Ishvara is the cause of the Jagat and it is not the Jiva? Immediately the Purana then tells us, Artheshu Abhijnaha Swarat Swayam Rajate. He shines of his own accord. He is lustrous of his own accord. This is not possible for the Jiva because the Jiva is dependent on Ishvara. So this Swarat is only possible for Paramatma. And then we might get the doubt that, okay, let it be Paramatma, but there is also an entity called Hiranyagarbha. So he is in fact the Srishtikarta. We see that also because the Veda also tells us Hiranyagarbhas samavartatagre bhutasya jatah patireka asit sadadhara prithivim dyamute mam kasmai devaya havisha vidhema is what the Vedas also tell us. Hiranyagarbha agre samavartata bhutasya jatah patihi. The first Jiva, Hiranyagarbha, existed before all else, and it is him who holds Dhyavam Prithivim Dadhara. He alone holds this Prithivi and the sky in place, and he sustains the Jagat. So why can it not be not the rest of the Jivas, but why should it not be this Hiranyagarbha, the Srishtikarta? So Hiranyagarbha is the Prathama Jiva. This is different from the Chaturmukha Brahma, but this Hiranyagarbha, why can it not be him? Immediately the Purana tells us, Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikavaye. This Paramatma is not the Jiva Hiranyagarbha, but rather is that entity who in fact taught the Veda to Hiranyagarbha. Because we see, yo brahmanam vidadhati purvam, yo vai vedanscha prahinoti tasmai. This Paramatma, having created Hiranyagarbha, then taught him the Vedas. So clearly, this is something that distinguishes Paramatma from Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha was taught the Vedas, but Paramatma teaches the Vedas. So here, the subject matter of this shloka is not the Hiranyagarbha who was taught, but rather that jagat guru, that first teacher, the Adi Guru, who in fact taught Hiranyagarbha the Vedas. Then we may get the doubt, nowhere in the Puranas is it said that just as a Shishya goes to the Guru and the Guru tells the Veda, the Shishya repeats. In this way, this Adhyayana, the Veda Adhyayana, Uchcharana and Anucharana that constitutes Veda Adhyayana, nowhere is this seen that every day Brahma, this Hiranyagarbha went to Vaikuntha, or this Hiranyagarbha went to Kailasa, or this Hiranyagarbha went to Manidvipa, and there one Veda class happened. We don't see this in Purana anywhere. That is why it is called Tene Brahma Hrida. By the heart itself, by the mind itself, Paramatma instilled the knowledge of the Vedas Adi Kavaye to the first Vidwan who was Brahma, that Hiranyagarbha. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye. Then why do we not just say that it is that Hiranyagarbha that knows it? Let us say that just as we are cognizant now, when we sleep we are not aware of anything. When we wake up again, we are once again cognizant of objects. In the same way, why do we not say that during the process of the cosmos, that this Hiranyagarbha is alert, during the pralaya, during the dissolution he sleeps, when he wakes up again he remembers the Vedas. Why do we not say this? Because this Brahma Tattva, this knowledge of Paramatma is not that easy to understand. Muhyanti yat surayaha. Even Panditas, even Vidwans end up becoming confused when it comes to this Tattva of Paramatma. So, thus we have established that this Paramatma alone is the cause of the Jagat. Now, we ask one more question. Does this Jagat have independent existence from Paramatma? Due to which we would say that this Paramatma is Satya and the Jagat as well is Satya. Is this possible? Can we say this? So, this we have shown that there is a Jagat that we see. There is a cause of this Jagat who is Paramatma. So now, does it follow that just as the Paramatma is Satya, the Jagat also is Satya? Can we indeed say this? Here, the Purana clearly tells us that this is a statement that we cannot give. That is why the Purana says, Yatra Trisargaha Mrisha. This Trisarga, the Sarga means the Srishti, the cosmos. Yatra, having been imposed in which Paramatma is Mrisha, that is to say Mithya. That is why we see the word Mrisha means Mithya. Mrisha Mithya to Vitathe is what the Kosha tells us. So this Jagat is Mithya and is imposed in Paramatma. Now what does it mean when we say Mithya? Immediately does not mean that this is something that is a lie that does not exist. Because the immediate question that we get is, if this Jagat is Mithya, then why are we able to interact with it? So Mithya does not mean something that does not exist. In fact, it is the very opposite. Mithya refers to something that temporarily appears as though existing. Someone whose existence is not absolute. So, there is one object that exists in the past, present and future. That is what we call Brahman. There are some objects that never exist. That is what we have discussed earlier, like the Shashavishana, the horn of a rabbit, or an Akhar Pushpa, an Akasha Pushpa, a flower that has blossomed in the sky. These things never exist. However, there are some objects that have a temporary existence. It is not that they do not exist in the past, present and future, but it is not also possible to say that they exist in the past, present and future. They exist only in the past, only in the present or only in the future. So those objects which have a limited existence are called mithya. For example, we say that the rope snake, example that is very common. We see a rope and we think it is a snake. So we see there a snake. The snake exists as long as we perceive it. The second that we turn on the light, the snake no longer exists. So we cannot say that the snake has not existed because we have perceived it. We can also not say that the snake is absolute because as soon as you turn on the light and you see the rope, the snake ceases to exist. Therefore, because the snake neither has absolute non-existence nor absolute existence, because it has a temporary existence, we say that it is mithya. So too the Jagat, Although it is anadi, it has been, because avidya is anadi, the jagat too created out of avidya is anadi. But upon attaining jnana, because the jagat dissolves, we say that the jagat is mithya. The Bhagavata Mahapurana too, in the outset itself, has stated this clearly. Yatra trisargaha mrisha. This jagat is mithya. The Bhagavata Mahapurana has clearly stated this. There is also Sridhara Swami, who has given the Advaitic interpretation of the Srimad Bhagavata, has explained this in two ways. Yatra trisargaha mrisha. He has also explained it to mean yatra trisargaha amrisha, where this jagat appears as though real, because there is only one existence of Brahman that pervades this entire jagat. As we said earlier, all objects have an aspect of is in them. The chair is, the pot is. They exist or they are available for perception solely because of this aspect of existence in each thing. Therefore, were it not for the existence of Paramatma, this jagat would not be able to be imposed in it. Just as if there were to be no rope, there could be no snake imposed upon the rope. In the same way, it is due to Paramatma that this jagat appears as though existing. So there, yatra trisargaha amrisha has also been explained. And then we also give an example. If people were to think that, if people were to mistakenly interpret this Purana to mean that Trisargaha, Amrisha, Trisarga is real, Satya, Jagat Satya, if people were to misinterpret the Bhagavata in this way, the Bhagavata Purana therefore clarifies such that this misinterpretation does not occur. Tejo vari mridam yatha vinimayaha. Just as light, mud and water get mixed up, in the same way, this Jagat also, which is actually Paramatma, becomes misconstrued as a Jagat. So if you look at the example that has been given, Tejo Vari Mrit, it is a case that the light of the sun, when viewed in a desert, appears as though water. So Tejas appears as Vari. There are some manis, they are called Kacha mani, certain types of beads, wherein if you lay them out, it will look like water. It will appear as though it is water. That is what Duryodhana saw in the Mayasabha. He thought that there was water in one place. He put his foot on it, but it turned out to be that it was actually a type of stone. So in the same way, in some places, mrit, that is to say these stones, appear as though they are water. So just as one thing mistakenly appears as another, just as the light of the sun in a desert appears as water, which is mithya, just as the kachashma, that particular type of stone, appears as water, which is mithya, in the same way, this jagat, in Paramatma, this jagat appears as mithya. So here too, the example that is given is one that is clearly propounding the mithyatva of the jagat. If the jagat were to be satya, this example would not be apt. The example of a mirage in the desert would not have been apt at all. Here too, the Purana has said vinimaya. Vinimaya means to be mixed up or to be improperly reversed. This is clearly a quality of mrisha, of mithya. So that we have now understood Paramatma to be the cause of the jagat, so that we understand that the jagat does not have an existence apart from Paramatma and therefore it is mithya, and Paramatma alone is the only satpadartha, then the Purana has told us that Tejovari mridam yatha vinimayaha, just as that the mirage in a desert is mithya, in the same way the trisarga, this jagat is also mithya, yatra, in which Paramatma, imposed in which Paramatma. Then we ask, so then this Maya Shakti that causes the jagat, is it then permanent? Can we not get rid of it? Dhamna svena sada nirasta kuhakam. That Paramatma, nirasta kuhakam. Kuhaka means Maya. Nirasta kuhakam. He has cast off Maya. How? Dhamna svena. With his own effulgence, with his own luster, with his own prakasha. That is to say, with jnana. Through jnana, Maya has been cast aside. And what is its true nature? So we have described so much until now. We have said that Janmadhyasya yataha, that this jagat has come from Paramatma. We have seen that the Paramatma is there as the Sat in all the objects. Then we have also seen that this Paramatma alone is sentient, and this Paramatma is also independent. This Paramatma has taught Veda to Brahma into Hiranyagarbha in the commencement, in the commencing of this cosmos, we have also seen that in this Paramatma alone this jagat is imposed. It is, the jagat is not absolute, but it is only imposed in this Paramatma. We have also seen that this Paramatma is capable of, this Paramatma is not beholden to Maya and is also capable of dispelling Maya. But what is the nature of this Paramatma? There, as the final word of this commencing shloka, Satyam Param. Satya, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. The Swarupa Lakshana. Until now, we have seen the Tatastha Lakshana, Brahman as defined by the Jagat. But if you define Brahman based on what Brahman is, this is the definition that you will have to give as Satyam. That which exists in the past, present and future, and that which is existence itself. On that, Dhimahi. Dhimahi means we meditate upon that. Dhyayema is the actual usage in Laukika Samskrita. Dhimahi is a Vedic usage. Why did Vyasa Maharshi use a Vedic usage? To show that the Paramatma who is known through the Gayatri mantra, which ends with Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat, Dhimahi, that Savitar Bhargaha, Dhimahi, we meditate upon that Bharga, on that other Bhargas, on that effulgence of the Savitri Devata. That Dhimahi that is used in the Gayatri mantra is used here too, to show that the Paramatma who is discussed in the Gayatri mantra is the Paramatma who is now the subject material of this Bhagavata. In this way, the first shloka of Bhagavata itself is clearly showing us that this Bhagavata is meant to tell us about that singular Paramatma, besides whom there is nothing else in this Jagat, that Paramatma due to whom this Jagat comes into existence, and that Paramatma who is beyond Maya. This Paramatma is the subject material of Bhagavata. Then it is also shown that in our Sanatana Dharma, our Vedas are split into three parts. The Karma Marga, Upasana Marga and Jnana Marga. That is what is called the three Kandas. The Karma Kanda, Upasana Kanda and Jnana Kanda. This Bhagavata has very important information pertaining to all three. That is what is told in the next shloka. Dharma projhita kaita votra paramaha nirmatsaranam satam vedyam vastava matra vastu shivadam tapatrayonmoolanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamunikrite Kimva Paraihi Ishvaraha Sadyo Hridyavaruddhyatetra Kritibhihi Shushrushabhihi Tat Kshanat. So what is talked about in the Bhagavata? Dharmaha Projhita Kaitavaha Paramaha. Dharma is discussed. Dharma refers to that which we are supposed to do. It is Paramaha, the highest Dharma, that is to say the Bhagavata Dharma. The way that a bhakta must conduct himself is discussed here. This pertains to the Karma Kanda, the Karma Marga. And why is this so great? Projhita Kahitavaha. Without any roundabout ways of telling anything, it is directly told. Who is the target audience here? Nirmatsaranam Satam. Those Satpurushas, those virtuous people who do not have jealousy, envy, or anger towards others. Such Satpurushas, such peaceful people are the target audience of this. Now, the Jnana Kanda is also discussed here. Vedyam, that which is to be known. What is to be known? Vastava matra vastu shivadam tapatrayon moolanam. That object when known, the object which when known removes the tapatrayas, any sorrow that may be found in this world. In the same way, it is also Shivadam. It gives us the highest auspiciousness. It is also Vastavam, the only object that is permanently true, real. Vastava means that which is absolutely true. Here, very nicely, Sridharacharya has written the Vyakhya here, Vastavam Vastu. The word Vastava itself comes from the word Vastu. That which relates to a Vastu is Vastava. So, what do we mean that there is a Vastu that relates to a Vastu? So, the word Vastu has been used. Vastu Vastavam. These two words have been used here. The word Vastava means that which relates to a Vastu. Why do we say both of these two? Why are both of these words told? Why cannot we simply say that Vastu Vedyam Asti, the only object that exists, is told here? Here, Sridhara Swami very nicely wrote, anything that relates to the Vastu is Vastava. Hence, the Amsha of the Vastu which is Brahman. So, here the Vastu means Brahman. The Amsha of the Vastu which is the Jiva is Vastava. The Shakti of Paramatma which is Maya is Vastava. The Jagat which is born out of the Vastu is Vastava. These Vastava objects are known to be the Vastu. That is to say, the Jiva is known to be no different from Paramatma. The Shakti of Paramatma is known to be no different from Paramatma. The Jagat which comes out of Paramatma is known to be no different from Paramatma. Therefore, the point of Bhagavata is to show that Ekameva Dvitiyam, there is nothing other than Brahman. Anything which appears different from Brahman, that is to say the Jiva, the Jagat or Maya, are not at all different from Brahman, but they are Brahman alone. Therefore, there is no Vastu other than Brahman. So, not just the Vastu, but anything that appears as Vastava, that is to say, born out of this Vastu, is not different from the Vastu itself. So, that is a Vedyam Vastava Matra Vastu. And what is the nature of this Vastu? Brahmatan Mangalam Param. Brahman is the most auspicious of objects, because having obtained it, what do we call auspicious? Anything that gives us happiness. Because Brahman gives us the highest happiness, it is said that Brahman is the greatest Mangalam out of all other objects. So Shivadam, Tapatrayon Moolanam. Then in the end, the Upasana Kanda, that is to say the worship of Ishvara, has also been told. Srimad Bhagavate, Mahamunikrite, in the Srimad Bhagavata Mahapurana, which has been composed by the Mahamuni. Here usually we will immediately think that this Mahamuni is Vedavyasa Maharshi. But here very nicely, Sridhara Swami writes that the Mahamuni here is none other than Narayana himself, Sriman Narayana. Because this Sriman Narayana has taught Brahma the Chatushloki Bhagavata, which is once again found in this Bhagavata Mahapurana. So this Bhagavata Jnana was taught by Narayana to Brahma, by Brahma to Narada Maharshi, Narada Maharshi to Vyasa Maharshi, and then from Vyasa Maharshi to Shuka Maharshi, who then taught it to Parikshit, which is the story of Bhagavata. So here, Srimad Bhagavate Mahamunikrite. So here, Sridhara Swami has written that this Mahamuni can be taken to be Sriman Narayana as well. Kimva Parehi. We do not have to look for anything else. Bhagavata is complete on its own. Kimva Parehi. Why? What is the Upasana object that is also gotten? So we have talked about the Bhagavata Dharma to be followed is taught here, that is the Karma Marga. Then Vedyam Vastu, the object to be known, the Paramatma, that singular Paramatma, that Brahman is also known here. The Jnana Kanda has also been discussed. Here Upasana is also told because Ishaha Hridi Sadhyaha Avarudhyate. Ishvara will be bound in the heart. The point of this Bhagavata is to tell us many stories about Ishvara that simultaneously tell us about the true nature of Ishvara, which is Brahman, as well as to tell us various vibhutis, various glories of Ishvara, through which Ishvara can be firmly bound in the heart. So, what are the target audience? What is the target audience here? Kritibhihi shushrushbhihi. Kritibhihi. Those who are willing to put forth great effort. Kriti means someone who is willing to work for something. So, this is not something that is going to be easy. Right? This is something that will require effort. Those who are willing to put forth that effort. And shushrushbhihi. They should be willing to undergo shravana. That is to say, they should be willing to undergo active listening. The word Shravana in our Shastras does not just mean listening, but it means listening with an intent of understanding the final purport of what has been told. So, those people who are ready to do such Shravana and after that put forth great effort to understand the true nature of what has been taught, those Bhagavatas, those Bhaktas, those illustrious souls are the target audience of this Srimad Bhagavata Mahapurana. So in the beginning, it is clearly shown that the Advaita Jnana, that is to say that there is only one Paramatma. It is from that Paramatma that the Jiva and the Jagat come forth. The Jiva is no different from Paramatma. The Jagat too the Jagat too obtains its existence from Paramatma. And it is also noteworthy that in the Janmadhyasya Yataha Shloka, in the first Shloka of Bhagavata, the name Vishnu or Narayana or a form of Narayana is not at all mentioned. So it is the Nirguna Paramatma, not the Saguna Paramatma who appears as Krishna and Narayana, but that Paramatma in the Nirguna form, that is the highest object to be known, which is why Param Satyam has been told. We see this Param Satyam is in fact an Upanishadic usage. The Upanishad itself tells us Param Aparancha Brahma is told in the Prashna Upanishad. So what do we mean that this Brahma appears in a para way and an apara way? Param Dhimahi. We seek to know the para form of Brahman. What are these two? The para form is the Nirguna form of Brahman. The upper form of Brahman is the Saguna form of Brahman. That is this Vishnu, Krishna, Rama, Narasimha, Shiva, Devi, Ganesha. These are all the upper forms of Brahman. It is one Brahman that has two natures. One is the Nirguna nature, that is the para, higher nature, a slightly lower nature. Lower in the sense that it is accessible. It is not that it is less important, but that it is more accessible because it is Saguna. So it is that higher form of Brahman discussed in the Vedas, that is the Param Satyam, that has been discussed here. So clearly, and then also in the same way, the Vastavam Vastu, the only object that is real, there is no other object that is Satya. So this Jagat Satyam, Jivaha Satyaha, Jiveshwara Bhedaha Satyaha. This is not at all what the Bhagavata is trying to tell us. It is that there is only one object that is Satya, and it is that object that is Paramatma. The Jagat is Mithya, and the Jiva is no different from this Paramatma. So this is the outset of Bhagavata. So in the beginning of the Bhagavata Mahapurana, clearly this Advaita Tattva, the Vedanta Tattva of Advaita has been set out. In the same way, we now see at the end, in the closing of Bhagavata, what has been told, if we look at that. As we know, the Bhagavata story it starts off with Shuka Maharshi with Suta Mahamuni telling the various the rishis in Naimisharanya, but the story of Bhagavata is that of when Parikshit is cursed by Shringi to die at the hands of Takshaka in 7 days. He requests that Shuka Maharshi teach him that by which he will get moksha in 7 days, after which Shuka Maharshi teaches this Bhagavata Mahapurana. And at the end, having taught the Bhagavata Mahapurana, if we see at the closing of the Bhagavata Mahapurana, if we look at the teachings of Shuka Maharshi to Parikshit, you will see that whatever Advaita Tattva has been taught in the outset of Bhagavata is the very same Advaita Tattva that has been taught in the closing of Bhagavata. So there, having told Parikshit about all the various pastimes of Paramatma, Bhagavataha Chesham is what Bhagavata tells us. All the various leelas of Paramatma as Krishna, in Paramatma in the form of Krishna in this Bhagavata Mahapurana. Here Shuka then tells Parikshit as a summation. Tvam tu rajan marishyeti pashubuddhimimam jahi. O Maharaja, get rid of this pashubuddhi that I will die. What is this pashubuddhi? The Upanishad tells us. Yonyam devatam upaste anyo sa vanyoham asmiti nasa veda yatha pashuhu. This is what the Upanishad tells us. Someone who worships Paramatma, thinking that anyo, so Paramatma is different, anyoham asmiti, I am different, nasa veda, he does not understand the true reality. Yatha pashuhu, just as an animal is also ignorant of the true situation around it, in the same way this person also, if he views Paramatma as separate from himself, if he has not yet realized the Jiva Brahma Aikya, that is the Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi, if he has not yet realized this Aikya, the unity between the Atma Padarthas, then he does not know it properly. Nasa Veda Yatha Pashuhu Anyosau Anyoham Asmiti Anyam Devatam Upaste. He who does Upasana of Paramatma saying that he is separate, I am separate, he does not know, just as a Pashu does not know. Exactly the same is told in, the flip of this is told in Gita, wherein Bhagavan's favorite Bhakta is the Jnani. Udara Sarva Evaite Jnani tu Atmaiva me matam. Bhagavan also says that the Jnani who is the greatest Bhakta understands that I am his Atma. So it is that knowing that Paramatma is the Atma, the very same Atma that is within each Jiva, that is the highest Tattva. Someone that does not know this is likened to a Pashu. So this Pashu Buddhi Mimam Jahi that Shuka Maharshi has told Parikshit is that of get rid of any Bheda Drishti that you have. Do not see Bheda between yourself and Paramatma. Then what is my true nature? Natvam na jataha prag abhutaha. It is not that you have been born. It is not that Tvam adya nabhavishyati. It is not that dehavatvam na nangshyasi. You will not perish like the body. You are not born like the body. You will not perish like the body. So do not think that you will die like the body, is what Shuka Maharshi tells us. Then we might say, see, all Shuka Maharshi said was Pashu Buddhi Mimam Jahi. Get rid of this animal mentality that I am going to die. It is not that Jiva Brahmaikya has been told. In case we were still doubtful about this, Shuka Maharshi then goes on to explain to Parikshit Maharaja what will actually happen when the body falls off. Ghate bhinne yatha kashaha akashasyat yatha pura evam dehe mrite jivaha brahma sampadyate punaha. This is what Shuka Maharshi tells Parikshit. Just as there is a pot, within that the akasha, that is the space within that pot is called ghatakasha. The rest of the expanse of space is called mahakasha. So until that pot, as long as that pot exists, we say that there is a ghatakasha. If that pot breaks, ghate bhinne, what happens? Akashaha akashasyat yathapura. That thing that we are calling the ghatakasha goes back to being the mahakasha that it always was. Right? Just it is not that ghatakasha has now disappeared. The akasha that was there within the pot still remains. It is just that it has now attained unity with the mahakasha. That mahakasha that always existed, it now becomes that. In the same way, dehe mrite, once the body is cast off, and the limitations of the body and the mind, the deha is not just the physical body, but it is the mind also. So dehe mrite, once the mind and body are cast off, jivaha, the jiva that remains, brahma sampadyate punaha, he becomes Brahman once again. That is why, as the Upanishad says, Brahmavit Brahmaiva bhavati. He who knows Brahman verily becomes Brahman. Then we get the question, see, that pot, the space within the pot has been called Ghatakasha because the pot has delineated it. So why are we thinking that the jiva is separate from Brahman? There Shuka Maharshi continues to tell us that Manasrijati Vaidehan Gunan Karmani Chatmanaha Tan Manasrijate Maya Tena Jivasya Samsritihi. So it is the manas that gives rise to the deha, the indriyas, the gunas, as well as the actions that go on in this world. Where did the manas come from? Tan manaha sriyate maya. Maya has given rise to the mind. Tataha jivasya samsritihi. Due to that maya, the jiva attains samsara. Otherwise, were it not for maya, the jiva would have remained as Brahman. So just as the pot only seemingly delineates the akasha, but actually the pot cannot cause any change in akasha. The akasha is akasha, but the pot only seems to delineate a portion of the akasha. In the same way, maya too, through creating the mind, seems to create the jiva as delineated by the mind. But once the mind is removed to the side and maya is set off to the side, just as that ghatakasha is no different from the mahakasha and indeed is the mahakasha, so too the jiva, once the mind and body are cast off and maya is also cast off, the jiva becomes one with Brahman. The jiva is no different from Brahman. Jiva brahmaiva naparaha. In case we still do not understand what Shuka Maharshi is trying to tell us, Shuka Maharshi, after telling all of this to Parikshit, then tells Parikshit outright, Aham Brahma Parandhama, Brahmaham Paramam Param, Evam Samikshya Chatmanam Atmanyadhaya Nishkale, Dashantam Takshakam Pade, Lelihanam Vishananaihi, Nadrakshasi Sharirancha, Vishwancha Prathagatmanaha. This is the final word that Shuka tells Parikshit Maharaja, nothing else. This is the last thing. If at all Shukacharya wanted Parikshit to take one thing away from Bhagavata, it was this: Aham Brahma Parandhama. O Parikshit, realize that you are Brahman. The Aham Brahmasmi Vakya has been put here verbatim. Aham Brahma Parandhama. I am that highest Brahman. Brahma Aham Paramam Param. I am that Brahman. Evam Samikshya. Samyagikshanam. This is the proper way to understand things. If you understand this properly, then what will happen? Atmanyadhaya Nishkale Atmani. Atmanam Atmanyadhaya. The Jivatma will find unity into Paramatma. Then what will happen? Dashantam Takshakam Pade. When Takshaka comes to bite you, that Takshaka, Shariram, your own body, Vishwam, this entire cosmos, you will realize that Atmanaha Prithaka Nadrakshyasi. You will not see them as separate from your own Atma. That is to say, exactly what has been told in the first shloka, that this jagat is imposed in Paramatma and therefore it is not separate from Paramatma. That is exactly what is told here, that if the jiva realizes that Aham Brahmasmi, if the jiva realizes that his true nature is Brahman, then what happens? The other jivas, that is to say Takshaka, etc., other jivas, the very body of the jiva itself and the rest of the cosmos as well will be seen to be imposed in Brahman, not separate from Brahman. Prithak Atmanaha Nadrakshasi. Nadrakshasi cha Nadrakshasi Sharirancha Vishwancha Prithak Atmanaha. For this final knowledge to come, what is the jnana that you need to have? Aham Brahma Parandhama. That Advaita jnana is what Shukacharya was trying to teach Parikshit through the course of Bhagavata. So this is the final word of Shukacharya. So after this, Shukacharya does not speak to Parikshit. After saying this, Parikshit says, I have understood, my moha has gone. Shukacharya continues on with the other sadhus. Then we need to see what happened to Parikshit. Did this Aham Brahma actually give him moksha? If we see what happened to Parikshit later, Brahma bhutasya rajarshehe dehaha ahi garalagnina babhuva bhasmasat sadyaha pashyatam sarvadehinam. Rajarshehe dehaha bhasmasat babhuva. The body of Parikshit became bhasma. So very clearly here, see in Puranas also, in many places, we say that Hiranyakashipu died, Hiranyaksha died, Ravana died. But here, the Purana is very clear to say that Parikshit's body became bhasma, showing that Parikshit has realized that he is the Atma separate from the body. Then what did Parikshit become? Brahmabhutasya rajarshehe. Parikshit, having obtained the jnana that Aham Brahma Parandhama that Shukacharya taught him, had become Brahman. As you said earlier, Jivaha Brahma Sampadyate. The Jiva becomes Brahman. In the same way, Parikshit too, having obtained this jnana, had become a Jivan Mukta, and that is why he is referred to here as Rajarshehe. He is not just, in the shloka there, Bhupatehe could also have been told. But Parikshit now is not just any king, but he is a Rajarshi, a king who has attained spiritual excellence, just as Janaka did. So such a Rajarshi, Parikshit, had become Brahmabhuta. He had attained unity with Brahman. Therefore, it was not him that died, but Brahmabhutasya Rajarshehe Dehaha Ahi Garalagnina, through the poison of Takshaka, his body bhasmasat babhuva. His body became bhasma. So we can clearly see here that the purport or the fruit of the Advaita Jnana that was taught by Vyasa Maharshi throughout Bhagavata, the fruit of the Advaita Jnana that Shukacharya impressed upon Parikshit is that you will become Brahmabhuta, you will attain unity with Brahman, and the body and all will not seek to torment you anymore. It will not be able to cause you any pain. So this is what Bhagavata is telling us. It is also, as Advaitins, it is also important that we recognize that it is one Ishvara that takes upon many forms. That Ishvara alone appears as Shiva, Vishnu, Devi, Ganesha, Surya in various forms. Krishna also tells the same in the Padma Purana as well. Shaiva, Shaurashtra, Ganeshaha, Yechave Shakti Pojakaha, Te Mameva Prapnuantiha, Parashambha Sagaranyatha. So all of that Krishna has told. Krishna tells Satyabhama that in other Puranas as well. And in pretty much every single Purana, there are numerous statements showing that Ishvara is one. He takes upon many forms such as Vishnu and Shiva. So this unity between Vishnu and Shiva is also seen in many places throughout Bhagavata. That is why Sridharacharya, while writing the Bhagavata Vyakhyana, the first namaskara he does is to his Ishtadevata Narasimha, who is found in the very heart of the Bhagavata. The namaskara after that, after doing namaskara to Krishna, he says, Madhavo Madhavo. I do namaskara to Madhava and Umadhava, that is to say Vishnu and Shiva, who are Ishau. They are two forms of one Ishvara. There is one Ishvara who takes a form of Vishnu and the form of Shiva. So Shiva is not a Jiva, Vishnu is also not a Jiva. So they are both forms of Ishvara. So Madhavo Ishau Sarva Siddhi Vidhayino. They bestow fulfillment upon their bhaktas. Vande Parasparatmano. They are each other's very soul. Paraspara Nutipriyo. They are fond of praising each other. So here in Bhagavata, because Bhagavata primarily talks about Krishna, here Krishna is shown as Paramatma and Shiva is shown as Krishna's Bhakta. There are some instances wherein Shiva is shown as Paramatma. For example, during the Halahala Bhakshana, during the churning of the Milky Ocean, of the Kshetrasagara, when Shiva is prayed to, immediately there is a big stuti that all the devatas do, showing Shiva clearly as the Ishvara, who is the highest entity. And then immediately Shiva says, I will drink the poison because if Vishnu is happy, the entire jagat will be happy. So to make Vishnu happy, I will
I will drink this poison. So immediately Shiva is praised as Paramatma, and immediately Shiva says that I want to make Vishnu happy. So nicely that samarasya, the that sadbhava, that happiness or that aikya between Vishnu and Shiva is nicely shown in that place. After the instance of Daksha Yajna, Vishnu himself states that we three Trimurtis, that is to say Brahma, Vishnu and Maheshwara, we are the form of one Ishvara. So anyone who shows who behaves improperly towards any one of the three of us has disrespected the other two. Anyone who disrespects Shiva has disrespected Vishnu. That is the entire point of the Daksha Yajna story. At the end of the Daksha Yajna story, Narayana himself tells this. And one more beautiful thing is the last story in Bhagavata. So in the Dvadasha Skandha, in the 12th Skandha, the 5th and 6th adhyayas contain the closing of Parikshit's story and Parikshit getting moksha and all of that. Then in the very last story out of those 13 adhyayas is the story of Markandeya Maharshi. So Markandeya, this comes in the 9th, 10th, in the 9th and 10th adhyayas of the 12th skandha. The last story are told there. After that, it is just Suta Maharshi summing up Bhagavata, and then the last adhyaya is the Phalashruti of Bhagavata. So the last story that is told in Bhagavata is that of Markandeya Maharshi. So very interestingly, this Markandeya Maharshi asks Vishnu that I want to understand the Shakti of your Maya. That is when immediately the Pralaya Sagara comes, he sees Narayana as Vatapatrashayi, then Vishnu just breathes in, and immediately that Markandeya is sucked in to Krishna. Within Krishna, he sees the entire cosmos and he comes back out. So after seeing this, Markandeya Maharshi sits doing dhyana of that Paramatma Tattva. To that Markandeya Maharshi, Rudro Jagatpati, Vishnu, Parameshwara, Shiva, he is passing by that route. He sees this Markandeya and immediately Parvati says, let us go bless him. At which point Shiva also says, okay, let us go. So Shiva then comes to Markandeya Maharshi. Markandeya Maharshi is so immersed in dhyana that he does not see Shiva standing in front of him. At which point Shiva, through Yogamaya, says Bhagavata, through Yogamaya he comes into Markandeya's heart. So there it says Markandeya Atmani Shivam Labdha, having seen Shiva or Hriday Shivam Labdha, having obtained Shiva in his mind, he opens his eyes. Immediately he does Namaskara to Shiva, Namah Shivaya Shantaya, when Namaskara comes here, Namaskara to Shiva, and then immediately he says he does Namaskara to Shiva. Immediately Shiva says, I will give you a boon now, because Vayam Trayaha Varadesha Vayam Trayaha. Shiva says, the three of us, that is to say myself, Vishnu and Brahma, three of us, the Trimurtis, who are the three forms that Ishvara takes to do Srishti, Sthiti and Laya, we are the greatest of those who give varas. So you can choose anything that you want. And then after that, Shiva praises the greatness of Jnanis. So the importance of Jnana is also found. And then Shiva says, Brahmana Santa Sadhavaha Ekanta Bhaktaha Asmasu. The greatest people, the greatest Jnanis are those people who are Nirmatsaraha. They do not have any Matsarya. Nirvairaha. They do not have any enmity towards anyone. Asmasu Ekanta Bhaktaha. They have the utmost bhakti towards the three of us. So those people are the greatest bhaktas. And then he says one more thing. Nate mai achyate jecha bheda mandvapi chakshate. Bheda mandvapi chakshate. Atmanascha janaschaiva. Tad yushman vayamimahi. So the quality of these jnanis, like Markandeya, who have obtained jnana, is te mayi in Shiva, achyate in Vishnu, aje in Brahma, bhidam anvapi na chakshate. They do not see even an atom of difference. Nate, those people, nate mayi achyate jecha bhidam anvapi chakshate. And not just between the Trimurtis, they also do not see Atmanascha Janasyapi. Between themselves and all other jivas, they do not see any difference, because they have realized that it is one Atma that is found in all of these other beings. So therefore, these jnanis are so illustrious that they do not see bheda between the forms of Ishvara. They also do not see bheda between the Atma of themselves and other jivas. So what is the illustrious state that they get? tat therefore Vayam Yushman Imahi. Therefore, Vayam, we Trimurtis come to you. It is not that you come to us. We come to you, as evidenced by Vishnu coming to Markandeya. Just here also Shiva coming to Markandeya. So, very nicely, the ending of Parikshit story shows us the Jiva Brahmaikya, and the ending of the stories of Bhagavata, that is the Markandeya story, shows us that this Madhavo, Paraspara Nutipriyo, Parasparatmano, that Markandeya saw Vishnu's true form and received the fruit of it from Shiva. So, this Tattva, which is taught in Bhagavata, this Advaita Tattva, is very clearly taught through the course of this Bhagavata Mahapurana. This same thing comes in the Dashamaskandha as well. If we talk about all of that as well, it will be a much longer lecture. But clearly, the Gopikas also say to Krishna that you are beyond words. It is you alone that is seen in all of us. The example that they give there is just as one moon is seen as manifold reflected in each wave of a lake. So to you, O Krishna, are seen as manifold reflected in the antahkarana of each jiva. This is exactly what is told in the Upanishad, Drishyate Jalachandravat. Just as one Atma is seen as though multiple due to there being multiple antahkaranas, in the same way, one Atma is seen as though manifold in each jiva. So this is this is what the Gopikas say to Krishna in Dashamaskandha. The Shruti Gitas, the Gopika Gitas, all of these, the highest peak of Bhagavata, which is found in Dashamaskandha, also very clearly shows the tattva of Krishna Paramatma. Because Krishna is none other than that Ishvara who is talked about. That Ishvara has taken upon the form of Krishna to do anugraha to all the to grace all the bhaktas of Vrindavana as well as the bhaktas of Mathura, Dwaraka, etc. So that tattva of Paramatma is so clearly seen through Bhagavata, and we must remain eternally grateful to Vyasa Maharshi for giving us such a text that at once allows us to indulge our bhakti towards Paramatma, obtain Paramatma's grace as Rama, as Krishna, as Narasimha, as Shiva, as Ganesha, as all of these various forms. Here in this though, mainly as Krishna Paramatma, also as Rama and Narasimha, whose stories also appear as side stories within within the Srimad Bhagavata. We can both obtain the grace of that Paramatma who appears in all of these various avatars, as well as allow us to understand the true tattva of that Paramatma, that Advaita tattva of that Paramatma, through which we can attain the highest bhakti, which is unity in that Paramatma. So, thus, doing namaskara to that Paramatma, I take your leave, and we shall meet again in a different lecture. Jagat Janmadi Lakshyaya Svercha Svikrita Murtaye Vidhvastakhila Heyaya Shri Nrisimhaya Mangalam.